Let's see which one finishes first, this or the chatter. Welcome to Unity Spiritual Center, Georgetown. And welcome, I always forget, but today I remembered, welcome to the online visitors. And we do have some, and I know people watch it later as well, so I've been to make sure that to welcome, where's the camera? This camera? You know how they do it on TV? Which one's on? so anyway, we're so glad that you're here today. And today's Palm Sunday, by the way. And I'm going to talk about that today, and it's that beginning of that metaphysically, symbolically, that change, that transformative process that we all eventually go through. And Jesus, as the way shower, was leading the way and said, this is, and it's not exactly like that for everybody, but it does involve a change, mostly a change in your consciousness and your awareness. And so we're glad that you're here today. So we welcome everybody, and I welcome my friend John. So good to see you, John. I'm glad you're here. We come together on Sunday mornings to, I like to say, just recharge our spiritual batteries, because during the course of the week, so many things happen to us. It's so easy to get distracted by the sensory world. And you know, it doesn't take a whole lot. And so it's good that we come together on Sundays so that we can kind of get together and refocus ourselves and remind ourselves of who we truly are and what we're really here to do. And that is to just share the love and harmony to the people of the world and the people in our community. And so Unity has no dogma, no creed, but we do have 5 principles that guide our philosophy, familiar with them. And basically they are, in a condensed version, God is everything, basically. And just think about that. I mean, we've always been told from the beginning, God is everywhere, all-powerful, all-knowing. Then the real question is not, what is God? The real question is, what is not God? If God is everything. And so God is everything, absolute good. And so you question about, well, I mean, if there's absolute good, then where all the other stuff come from? Well, we do have creative power, and we're not very good at creativity just yet, but we're working on it. And that's part of the message for today, too. That's part of the message. We have to work on this. So coming together on Sunday mornings is a big step in that direction, because what I like to do is have a lot of interaction so that you are involved in what we're doing, and it helps with the power, with the energy level of things. And hopefully it even develops spiritual practices for you that you can take and use them anytime that you're feeling stressed or something. You can, I've told you before, we have a lot of tools in our in the Unity toolbox, and you can use them at any time that you like. Anyway, I want you to join me for now with our mission statement. We are a thriving spiritual community, inspiring and empowering individual and global transformation as exemplified by the life and the teachings of Jesus. Once again, welcome to Unity Spiritual Center, Georgetown, a spiritual breath of fresh air. Our announcements.
If you are here for the first time, we would like to extend a special welcome. And if you are comfortable, please raise your hand or stand so that we can say hi and give you a welcome packet.
Wonderful.
Hello.
Thank you.
Would you like to tell us who you are or where you're from? Well, welcome.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Glad to have you with us. Thank you for being here, and we hope that you feel welcome and choose to make Unity Spiritual Center Georgetown your spiritual home. The Let's Get Metaphysical discussion group with Reverend Tommy meets on Wednesdays at 10 a.m. We meet at Legacy Hills Park across the street, weather permitting.
We'll be at Ann's this week because of the rain and stuff.
Okay. If you're interested to get on the mailing list, send Reverend Tommy an email and he'll put you on the list. Matching donations for the Spiritual Home Fund are still being made through the end of March. That means today and next Sunday. Let's utilize this generous gift to the max. So far, in February and March, we've raised $6,995, which is 70% of the $10,000 matching donation. And the balance at the end of February was $27,480. Many thanks to that anonymous donor. The book club meets on the fourth Tuesday of each month, which is this Tuesday at the Lark and Owl at 10 a.m., and the book to be discussed is Flash, A Life of Adventure Relived in 3.5 Seconds by Reverend Jim Passmore, who is with us. The special bonus this month is that Reverend Jim will be at the meeting for the discussion. Yay. Our annual meeting is today, finally, after the service. We are planning it to only last about an hour, so please stay. It's important to hear what our center does behind the scenes to keep us up and running. We're planning to have 2 outdoor services coming up at the Cowan Creek Pavilion since this room has been booked. The dates are April 28th and May 26th. Since we will already be outside, we're planning picnic lunches for fellowship. Yay! Reminders will be in the weekly newsletter and on the website. The Fund and Fellowship Committee plans on seeing our own Kirk Kelso. Yay! In Disaster, the musical, on April 14th at 2 p.m. at the Springer Stage Palace Theater here in Georgetown. I heard it's really great. I think it just opened Friday. Yes. Okay. Some are making plans for a brunch at Fuego Latino before the play, and you will need to make reservations if you'd like to join that group. The committee is also planning a June 2nd potluck here at the Oaks. More details will follow as we get closer to the date, but add it to your calendar and plan to join us. For additional information, please visit our welcome table in the foyer, check out your weekly e-newsletter, go to our website, or email admin via the links in either. Thank you.
Well, as you know, we like to get things kind of rolling. I hadn't seen that. I said, what's funny? I haven't said anything yet. Carrie is too creative, way too creative, Carrie. We like to start with a little bit of humor because, as I like to say, humor is the best medicine, and it does open up the door to your soul. And when you're laughing, you're just, the door to the soul is wide open. So this one was I'm getting short on, although Mary gave me a whole book last week. But this one was sent to me by Alice Cooper, our board president. So if you have any complaints, talk to her. So there was this elderly lady, and she was riding on the bus, and she gets on the bus, and she hands the bus driver a handful of peanuts. And he says, oh, thank you, and he eats them. And about 5 minutes later, she walks up with another handful of peanuts, and he said, well, thank you so much. I'm really enjoying these. They're delicious. And then in a little while, she does it again, and he says, you know, I really appreciate, giving me these, but, I mean, I don't understand. Why aren't you eating them? And she said, oh, I can't. I said, why not? Because she says, well, I don't have any teeth. And so she gives a big smile with her toothless smile, very lovely. And the bus driver says, well, I don't understand. Why do you buy them then? And she says, because I love that chocolate coating around them. Let's please rise and begin our service.
I'm so glad Spirit lifted me. I'm so glad Spirit lifted me. I'm so glad Spirit lifted me. Singing glory, hallelujah. Spirit lifted me. When I was in trouble, Spirit lifted me. When I was in trouble, Spirit lifted me. When I was in trouble, Spirit lifted me. Singing glory, hallelujah. Spirit lifted me. When I was feeling lonely, Spirit lifted me. When I was feeling lonely, Spirit lifted me. When I was feeling lonely, Spirit lifted me. Singing glory, hallelujah. Spirit lifted me. I'm so glad Spirit lifted me. I'm so glad Spirit lifted me. I'm so glad Spirit lifted me. Singing glory, hallelujah. Spirit lifted me.
Today's daily word is on Palm Sunday. The affirmation is, "The Christ within protects and clears my way." The inspiration for today's daily word comes from Matthew chapter 21, verse 9. "Blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord." As I enter Holy Week, I reflect on Jesus' triumphant entry into Jerusalem and how the multitudes greeted him, shouting, "Hosanna! Blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord." Like so many, I have used the sacred time of Lent to cleanse my soul of beliefs and habits that no longer serve me. I have felt blessed as I have opened my heart to the healing, cleansing waters of Spirit. Now I feel ready to welcome a greater awareness of the Christ within me. Every part of me quivers with eager anticipation. The world seems fresh, and I feel newly alive. I behold the Christ in me and in all others. With joy, I celebrate. With gratitude, I humbly bless the Christ in me and in everyone. Please read the affirmation with me twice. The Christ within protects and clears my way. The Christ within protects and clears my way.
morning. Okay, now it's time to light the 3 candles that represent the 3 aspects of divine order. Make sure I'm on. Wait a minute. I'm on? Okay, good. Yeah. Mind, idea, and expression. Divine mind is everything that is, everything that was, everything that can be, limitless possibility. Mind, when we align our minds with divine mind, we are given creative ideas. And we can activate and use these creative ideas or express these creative ideas by our thoughts, our words, and our actions, thus becoming co-creators with God. Please join me in stating the prayer of intention. Living Spirit opens our minds, opens our hearts, touches us all deeply with love, and sends us out as agents of love, agents of peace, agents of justice. Amen. No children, so now it's a song.
Hold my hand while I run this race. Hold my hand while I run this race. For I don't want to run this race. Stand by me while I run this race. Stand by me while I run this race. Stand by me while I run this race. Or I don't want to run this race in vain. Guide my feet while I run this race. Guide my feet while I run this race. Guide my feet while I run this race. I don't want to run this race in vain.
Thank you. Okay. Please join me in affirming together our statement of being and our vision statement. There is only one presence and one power active in the universe and in my life. God the good, omnipotence. Centered in God, we co-create a world of love, peace, and abundance.
I am a gift, no matter what age, no matter how I look, there's beauty in each stage. I am a gift, and I promise every day, when I look in the mirror, I say, I am a gift. I am a gift. I've loved really well, and every year I've lived is a different tale to tell. I've made mistakes, have some regrets, but I promise just marching on without me. That's to find me and ever so gently remind me that I am a gift, a precious child. I'm put here on this earth, but only for a while. So I make this vow, and I say it with love. I am perfect and whole and enough. I am a gift. I am a gift. I am a gift.
Now it's time for community prayer. Let us close our eyes, take a deep breath, and connect to the divine guidance within. It is here in this sacred space that we recognize our strength and release all doubts and fears. Let us continue to be still and linger in our sacred space while we focus on our breathing. Breathe in peace. Hold. Breathe out anxiety. Breathe in faith. Hold. Breathe out doubt. Breathe in trust. Hold. Breathe out fear. Today, March 24th, is Palm Sunday. On this day, I remember Jesus and the trust he demonstrated as he followed his calling during Holy Week. He let events unfold without his interference. He may have had doubts, yet he trusted that he was guided to follow a higher path. Today, let us follow Jesus' example of trust. Let us heed our guidance. Whatever I do, I trust God. Repeat with me. Whatever I do, I trust God. Let gratitude fill us as we become thankful for the opportunities that life's challenge offer us, and thankful for the beautiful light within us. As I release doubt and seek guidance, I become one with divine mind. Now, within this sacred space, we shall pray. If you are holding a person or situation in your heart, let us bring them into our circle of love by speaking their name or condition either aloud or silently. And let us rest in quiet for a few moments. Let us close our time of prayer by singing an ancient prayer, a prayer handed down through the ages that affirms God's realm manifest in earth as it is in heaven, the Lord's Prayer.
Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And leave us not in temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen.
Beautiful. Today, for our spiritual practice, I will discuss trust and acceptance. There have been many things in my life that I have not accepted. I have not accepted the price of gas, the price of housing, and the price of insurance. I have also not accepted some politicians, hot peppers, aggressive drivers, and the horrors of war. Has my non-acceptance of these things changed the reality of these events? No. What I have found from my many years on this planet is that when I accept things exactly the way they are, I find peace. It is in the acceptance of things I cannot change that I learned that there is a power greater than myself taking care of absolutely everything. When I am in acceptance, which does not mean I have to like what's going on, I am in peace. In fact, there are many things in life that I accept and do not like. Acceptance is not a stamp of approval, but rather a tool we can use to find serenity. Being out of control doesn't mean I'm a victim. It means I am letting go to a loving presence greater than me. In my childhood, I was introduced to a God that I was told to fear. Even as a child, that definition of God did not seem right. As a kid, I went to parochial school. I learned a lot about God, at least the Catholic view of who God was and what Jesus taught. I also learned to be obedient and do as I was told. It was a big part of my life, and it took me many years to learn that it was up to me to make choices that could change my life for the better. In the 70s, I was in an unhealthy marriage. It was getting worse each year. And during that dark time, as I was struggling to decide whether to stay or leave, I went to see a counselor who led me to know what I must do for myself and my children. I also changed the way I prayed. And instead of asking God for help, I asked for strength to help myself. That experience taught me to trust in myself and listen to my inner guidance. When we let go and let God, we release our preferred outcomes. We trust that we are eternally safe. This is freedom. Acceptance allows us to turn everything over to our loving source and allows us the freedom to fully live our lives. What is it that you're not accepting today? Let go and let God. Now, let's take a deep breath and become aware of the light that surrounds us. Let us become silent and go within to our inner sanctuary, becoming aware of God's presence that permeates us. In this moment, focus on your Christ presence and be fully present in this space. I release all doubt and fear and bring the virtue of acceptance into this space. I know I am a part of something larger than myself, as we are all one. Now, as we move into prayer, let us breathe in love and spend time in the beautiful quiet of light. Dan will bring us back with his song.
Up above my head, I hear music in the air. Up above my head, I hear music in the air. Up above my head, I hear music in the air. And I really do believe there's a peace somewhere.
This thing, sometimes it takes me a little effort to get this little clicker going. Come on, clicker. We're waiting for you. Sorry about that. And I'm sitting back there trying it the whole time just to make sure. And it works, and I get up here and it doesn't work. Why do you not want to work? Seriously. Okay, let's try something different. But that changed. I have to change everything now. I'm going to go this way with this whole deal. Then I'll just have to click it. Come on. I should be embarrassed by now. All right, I'll just have to do it myself. Okay. Transformation, the spiritual meaning of Palm Sunday. Changing how we see the human story. Today's Palm Sunday on the Christian calendar, in the beginning of Holy Week, that we also call Passion Week. And I shared with you, when I first heard the word passion, why do they call it passion? Well, because they use the word differently. The root of passion is a Latin root, and it means to suffer. It doesn't mean that I'm passionate about something. So that's where Passion Week comes from. And most every Sunday in our welcome, we state that we honor and draw from all paths to spirit. And we do. Each of these paths to spirit represent what one might call a model of the universe. In the Let's Get Metaphysical group, we came across a quote once that said, "All models are wrong, some models are useful." This tells us that there is no path that is absolutely true or absolutely false. There's some truth and some fallacy in all the models. And the reason why is because they all have to go through what we call the human filter. And that is the level of awareness, of consciousness, whoever happened to formulate the model had. And so if you're a true seeker with an open mind, the challenge has always been to find that common thread that runs through all these models. And there are some. Because that method possibly represents the best version of the truth that you might find. And I know that there's one in particular. I don't know if you can name what thread runs through all of them, but the one that does is the golden rule. Everybody has this. Everybody. All religions, all paths. Now for me, when I came to Unity, I found that the Unity view, the Unity interpretation of the Christian model has been very useful to me. I have found it to be a useful model. Why? Because we see the story from a conceptual level and not from the literal, traditional one. The traditional view is somewhat exclusive and somewhat limited, which is odd because no other religion promotes exclusivity. They all, or we do anyway, try to promote inclusivity, complete inclusivity. So that old way of looking at things is not reflective or consistent with my idea of pursuing this leading edge consciousness that's on the planet. So for us in Unity, the task at hand is to see the events of the coming Christian Passion Week, the crucifixion and the resurrection, from a place that represents this higher consciousness. And I'll begin with reviews of the old and search for a new way to take on this project. That will be the approach for this week and next week. I will take what's useful from the model and discard what is not useful from the model, and that's not consistent with our higher goals that we seek in Unity. So let's begin. There is no way to overstate the importance of the events historically, and I use that word in quotations loosely because the Bible is not a history book. It is a story of stories. And historians do not use it because it's really not historically accurate. That was never the intent. We're trying to make a point. But anyway, historically for Christianity, this week is crucial. And in fact, had it not been for the events of this week, Christianity would not have become Christianity. But that's only half the story. The other half is that if it had not been for St. Paul promoting this view throughout the entire Greco-Roman world, Christianity would have gone the way of all the other sects that there were into oblivion. But it did survive. We do have the story. And the question in Unity becomes, what do we make of this story? Obviously, we have rejected the traditional one, otherwise we wouldn't be here. And just what is that traditional story? Interesting you should ask. Tradition tells us that the events of these 10 days was the plan of God Almighty to reconcile humanity for our disobedience. Now, this following explanation I had never heard until I took the great courses, and one professor put it this way. He said, the theological explanation for this belief is that our offense against God was so egregious that mankind did not have the capacity to fix it. That's how big the offense was, that only God could fix it. And so God took the form of a man and subjected himself to a brutal and barbaric crucifixion in order to make amends with his creation. That's the traditional view. And its base really comes not from Christianity, it comes from long before that. And we've talked about that before, Zoroastrianism and some of the other ones. Now, I have to say, just to be clear, I've told you before, when I was growing up, I don't know how many times I apologized to Jesus, really. I said, Jesus, I'm sorry that I don't have that feeling that you're the only Son of God, because it didn't make sense to me. I didn't know why at the time, but I always had the feeling, something's wrong with it. And so I said, I'm sorry, Jesus. I don't know how many times I said that. And so I have to say, I kind of have to feel like I say the same thing now, that I have to apologize for things that I've learned from biblical scholars. And I really got to come out of the closet one of these days about all this. But And my comments are not made to affront anybody. They're not made to challenge anybody. They're not made to debate anybody. I'm just simply letting you know what I have learned about the background, because most of us come from this background. Now, obviously, Unity takes an entirely different approach to this Holy Week. And as with all events in the Bible, Unity aims to understand the spiritual meaning that there is behind the events. That requires a look at the events and indeed the entire life of Jesus from a higher perspective. The life of Jesus can be essentially divided into three parts. The first, of course, is what we traditionally celebrate as his birth, Christmas. Now we know, of course, that he wasn't born in Christmas, but that's another story. The second is the time between his birth and the beginning of his ministry. This period is sometimes called the lost years because the canonical Gospels make virtually no reference to those years. Yes, there are books and there are stories which address this time period, but they have been deemed heretical, and we are told not to take them seriously. But there's the gospel of the infant Jesus, the gospel of Mary, the gospel of all these gospels that exist, but they're not canon, so most people don't know about them. The third part of Jesus' life would be the 3 years that he spent in ministry. This time is when he offered us his wisdom as a spiritual teacher. Passion Week and Easter are the culmination of that time period and the topics for today and next week. As a general overview, these 3 chapters correspond metaphysically, as we say, to our spiritual journey as well. Thus, we have Jesus as our way shower. He's a trailblazer, so I want to take things from that angle. So the first part, Christmas, is that point in Jesus' birth, or Jesus represents, as you know, the I am consciousness within us, the awareness. And so Christmas represents that time, that point in our spiritual journey when we finally awaken to the idea that we are divine beings having a human experience. Of course, we've always had, it wasn't a birth per se, because we've always had it, but we weren't aware of it. So it's like a birth. Now, the interesting thing about this birth is that just because we have the birth doesn't mean we automatically have all the stuff that goes with it. There is a period of development involved because we have so much humanity, so much in our subconsciousness that we need to clean out our closets. We do. And all this time of preparation is that. We see it even in the life of Jesus. If you will note, he did not begin his ministry right away. He had a certain amount of unfolding to do as well. Those 30 years he spent in time of preparation to begin his ministry. And as a final test, he spent the 40 days in the wilderness, like forging the iron, to get ready for this thing. So then the next 3 years of his life, he spends spreading the message of love, healing, and forgiveness. And that in unity is what we say is the true meaning of Jesus and his life. Teaching us love, healing, and forgiveness. Everything else is like stories. This is what we see as a real story. So it brings us to to Holy Week and Easter. So these 10 days symbolically represent that stage in the transformative process. The caterpillar becoming the butterfly. It's that period. The overcoming of physical limitations. So let's set the stage for this upcoming event. So many things were coming together at that time that it was like trouble waiting to happen. It's like fireworks and alcohol. Like, what could go wrong, right? Nothing. What could possibly go wrong? As we move through these 2 weeks, I will include some thoughts about the literal and the metaphysical as we go through it. Before we get into this story, though, we got to go back in time and do the pre-story, because that's essential to understanding what is going on here. You see, those 10 days during the time of Jesus were not about Holy Week or Easter. There was no such thing. These people were Jewish. They were Jews. And Jesus and the entire Jewish world was making their pilgrimage into Jerusalem to celebrate the annual celebration of Passover. They did this every year. Now, a raise of hands, do you know what Passover is? Could you even explain it to somebody? Maybe? Not too many. Well, it says, I looked it up, Passover is an important biblically derived Jewish holidays. Jews celebrate Passover as a commemoration of their liberation by God from slavery in ancient Egypt and their freedom as a nation under the leadership of Moses. It commemorates the story of the Exodus as described in the Hebrew Bible, especially in the book of Exodus, in which the Israelites were set free from slavery in Egypt. In the narrative of the Exodus, the Bible tells us that God helped the children of Israel from their slavery by inflicting 10 plagues upon the ancient Egyptians before the Pharaoh would release the Israelis. And the 10th one, and the worst one of the plagues, was the death of the first Egyptian born. So the Israelites were instructed by an angel of God to mark on their doorpost of their homes with the blood of a slaughtered spring lamb, and upon seeing the Spirit of the Lord, knew to pass over that house. Hence the English name of the holiday, the Passover. So when the Pharaoh freed the Israelites, they said they left in such a hurry that they didn't have time for the bread to rise, and so they eat unleavened bread, and that's the whole holiday. So this is really big. That's what they're celebrating. Another big part of this understanding of what's happening, the scenario that's coming together, is that there was a lot of tension in the air in that year, during that time in Jerusalem. Because you have to understand that the Israelites were celebrating being set free from their ancient oppressors. And here comes this new guy who many believe is the new Messiah, who is going to overthrow the new oppressors, who are the Romans. And so, yeah, there's a little tension going on there. The Romans are on high alert. They're outnumbered, the soldiers, 20-1, easily or more. And the governor has strict instructions from the emperor. The governor had two things to do: collect taxes and keep the peace. And if he didn't do either one, they were rough riders. There would be stuff to pay, So the governor made it very clear there will be no acceptance of any kind, of any disruption. So keep that in mind. So the story begins then by Jesus' triumphant entry into the city of Jerusalem. Spiritually, Jesus, again, represents our divine nature, the I am presence. And Jerusalem is the abiding consciousness of inner peace, a spiritual home, if you will. Now, notice that the Jewish word for peace is shalom. I think you've all heard that. And it's clearly in the name of Jerusalem. So it's the inner peace. Symbolically, then, this journey by Jesus into Jerusalem represents the Spirit's return to our true essence. That's symbolically what it's saying. So by this point in the ministry, Jesus had developed a large following of people because he had performed so many miracles, he had done so many lessons, healings, parables, admonitions, and many had come to believe that he was the long-awaited Jewish Messiah. So when he came to Jerusalem, a lot of people came with him. And the gospel writers wrote that Jesus came into Jerusalem riding a donkey in order to fulfill the scripture. It comes from Zechariah. It said, "Say to the daughter of Zion, behold, your king is coming to you, gentle and mounted on a donkey, even on a colt, the foal of a beast of burden." So according to folklore of the time, A king who rode in on a donkey was one who came in peace and triumph. Because spiritually, a donkey represents meekness, humility, and a willingness to surrender to the divine nature. In contrast, when you come in on a horse, you're coming in for war. And he comes coming in, the portrayal is of a triumphant new leader. Again, the Romans are going like, who is this guy? And so the story said that the roads were covered with palm branches. And palm branches represent symbolic strength and receptivity. They often it is also said that they softened the road for the donkey and for everybody coming in. In other words, it was like the red carpet of the time. They're rolling out the they were rolling out the palm leaves. That's what they were doing. And symbolically, the crowd represents the multitude of material thoughts and our minds waiting to be raised to a higher consciousness. And these material thoughts seek the presence of the divine, which they saw in Jesus and recognized in Jesus. The hosannas, it says, were the spiritual chants that raise us from the sense consciousness, that lifting up like the music does, just lifts you up. It is the willingness to surrender to the higher energy, the flow that dwells within us. Now, I want to leave you with this final thought as we set up this Holy Week Easter thing. In regards to the beginning of the Holy Week, and it comes from Mark 11:15 to 18. On reaching Jerusalem, Jesus entered the temple courts and began driving out those who were buying and selling there. He overturned the tables of the money changers and the benches for those selling doves, and would not allow anyone to carry merchandise throughout the temple courts. As he taught them, he said, "Is it not written, 'My house will be called a house of prayer for all your nations'? But you have made it a den of robbers." The chief priests and the teachers of the law heard this and began looking for a way to kill him. And they feared him because the whole crowd was amazed at his teaching. Now, what did I just tell you about the tension in the air and the degree of tolerance that was going to be tolerated? And here comes Jesus. What's the first thing he does? He goes into the temple of all things and overthrows everything. That is not a good way to start the week. Jesus, the I am consciousness, metaphysically, from a spiritual perspective, is overthrowing these old thoughts. Because when we interpret the Bible metaphysically, any building, any place represents a state of consciousness. So the temple represented the state of consciousness the people had in regards to how you worship God. They would go in there, and you had to change the money. You couldn't use other currency. No. We want this currency. Put it into dollars. And you couldn't bring, because it involved the sacrificial lamb, to offer to the gods. And you couldn't bring your own lamb. No, you got to buy our merch. That's how it works. So Jesus said, you guys have made a mockery of everything. So this old way of seeing things, he said, I'm not going to have it. But again, symbolically, the people, the place represents a state of consciousness, and the people, or any people within any event, represents thoughts, individuals. And when you get them collectively, well, then they represent another state of consciousness. But in the case of this, he's overthrowing symbolically all the old ways of doing things. That's what the symbolism of this. And of course, those who benefited from this old way of doing things, what did they do? They quickly resisted and called out for to be killed. Because that's the reaction of the old way of doing things that it has when a new way of doing things comes along. It resists, and it wants to battle it because it doesn't want to lose its authority, its place. So I'm going to ask you now to take a few moments, Dan. Can I have a little, thank you, to contemplate today's message. And I invite you to get comfortable in your chair, feet firmly planted on the floor. And we begin with a few deep breaths. Turn your full attention to the here and the now moment. A moment in which everything exists and awaits our awareness to come forth. The events of this week remind us that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And from this higher consciousness, we see that Jesus symbolizes the I am within each of us. His ride into Jerusalem on Palm Sunday symbolizes the last step in our preparation for the crucifixion of our sense consciousness and the emergence of our divine consciousness into this world of expression. Finally, we're reminded that our true nature will eventually come forth in every being on this planet. For we are in this world, but not of this world. We know this because we are guided by our inner compass. And so it is.
When night is falling so hard upon you, and the world is hanging heavy on your heart, when your soul is stranded and you're barely standing, I will hold you, shield you, show you I am standing by. And when you're lost and think no one could find you, I will remind you you're not alone. I will be there. I'll be the one to guide you. My love will be your compass. I will lead you home. When night is painted, your world in shadows, and you're left feeling left out in the cold, when you're in the darkness and this world feels heartless, I will see you, hear you, reach you. I am standing by. And when you're lost and think no one could find you, I will remind you you're not alone. I will be there. I'll be the one to guide you. My love will be your compass. I will lead you home when you're in the storm and you're in the dark, lost at sea. Grab my hand and reach for me. I am standing by. And when you're lost and think no one could find you, I will remind you you're not alone. I will be there. I'll be the one to guide you. My love will be your compass. I will lead you home. My love will be your compass. I will lead you home.
Yeah. Yeah. Gorgeous. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Dan. These guys, man, every week they blow me away, and I love it. Love it. Just love it. Now comes a time when we give our love offerings to the spiritual community so we can continue to send out the message of love, healing, and forgiveness from the Master Jesus. We take our tithes in our hands, and together we say, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. I give in love, and I trust God.
Everything I see, everything I do is blessed by your hands, God. I give it back to you. Everything I give, every thought that's true is magnified and kind, God. I give it back to
Join me in our offering and dedication. We bless and dedicate these tithes and offerings as an expression of divine love, and we release them to manifest that love in our community and in our world. And we bless the children of the world. We love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the Christ you are. Final announcements. Jill is our prayer chaplain today. We have an annual meeting right after service, so hang around a little bit. We shouldn't be too long. We'll try to make it quickly, and I guess that's pretty much it. So we'll see you in just a little bit. Let's rise and end with our peace song. Have a blessed week.